beauty of working with the assets file is that I can do that. Just drop them into here, relink them, but they already have all of the stuff pointing right back to the assets file for the containers and what's going in them. So it's a quick setup on that part. All we need to do now is come in here on our flour factory and we're loading the wheat flour container. Next, we have a visibility node to set for wheat flour. We're going to set one of each of these to each of the groups here. Well, there's the wheat container one, 129. And we need to get new start and end nodes. Let's pick a number that isn't done. Start 4 and end 4 for the spawn area. And the new spawn area was the container spawn, which is 17. So it's 17.0 and 17.1. Now we have our spawn point. Back up to where that is. We're going to close off our digital display for now, because I'm going to have to bring in some type of other digital display for those later. We're not going to have a loading trigger for these. It's only going to be the object spawner, and that is start 4 and end 4. Let's see. Most mods also do not use an asset file like PV mods do. That is for sure. I'd love to see a small placeable mod from scratch. Most of the vids we've seen do what you're doing now, copying from somewhere else. No explanation how to exactly do it. Well, stay tuned. Most mods also do not use an assets file. Yeah, we use an assets file. A lot of it is we've done many models from scratch, but yeah. Where do you start and where to even put the folders? We could do a little bit there. Yeah, stick around. We'll do a little bit. You know, I'm always here to try to help. Let me basically unless you're a 3D modeler, you need to start somewhere. And the real place to start is to find the model you want. How are you going to get it? That is the big thing. What are you going to use for a model? Where do you want to get it from? And I can give you a little bit of an example. We can take a break here. Might as well do it while we got your attention. I'm going to save this because I do have another project. So my new project is another project that we're going to be working on, and I have started it, but I really haven't done anything much to it at all. So what you do is create a folder right wherever you want. I have them all in my mods folder that I'm loading up, and they're all unzipped, ready to go. But if I was to create a new mod, I would create a new folder. I'd name it FS19 and whatever name I want, okay? That is your first step. Now, I'm going to use something for an example, but we're going to go back to, if I can find it. I have another mod I'm going to be working on that is the PV Exchange. So I created a PV Exchange folder. You will see an i3D file there, and it's called PV Exchange. How do we get that 3D file? What I did was I basically went into the map, and I'm going to do this for you guys too, because it'll give you a better idea. If you don't have any 3D knowledge, you can use Giant's assets. Now, this link, data shortcut, points to, I have it on my desktop because I use it all the time. It points to the program files, Steam apps, and if you're not Steam, you're going to find it's in your Farming Simulator install folder, and then there's a data folder. This is all of the files for Giant's maps. So I'm going to go into a map, and this is their DE map, and their US map file I3D is right down here. Map US and map DE. So I'm looking for my very first model. Actually, this will be my second. But your walk-on sound didn't play. Darn walk-on sounds. Let me see if they're turned on. They actually, yeah, they played earlier. It could be delayed. These things are crazy lately. Um, where is my blurb? I've got so many things on here now. Yeah, it's turned on. I'm going to toggle it. Sometimes that helps. So load up one of the maps, your map of your choice. Now, I know what I'm creating, and I know I need a silo. I want to start because it's going to be an exchange place for crops. So I'm going to load up the US map. I usually pick US first because I'm making more US style maps, and I'd rather have a silo or a building that I can use for a crop exchange that is more US based. So we click and nothing happens. No, it should be loading. Yeah, I've got some windows open. So there we are. We have Giant's map. It's here. Again, I don't have 3D modeling experience. I know how to import models if I purchase them, but one place you can get them from is Giant's map. And let's find a building. I think they have something that I could use in here. There's got to be something I could use for a crop exchange. We could use a silo like this, for instance, and use that for my drop off. And we have a silo right here for pickup. So that would be a nice little building that I could use. It's a railroad grain silo, but we're going to repurpose it. It's not going to be, well, maybe not, because we don't want to put it on a railroad. So let's see if we can find something else. But that's, if we can't, we may use that. They're all on railroads around here. This one's on a railroad too. I'm looking at the fact that we have this piece here that goes out over the railroad. But we're making a placeable, so I really don't want a railroad extension. Now at this point I could call in my favorite 3D modeler and have him cut this piece off, but he's not around. So to save time, we'll try to find something else that I can use for my crop exchange, some type of silo setup. That's our dairy. And sometimes you can't find something. But there's a lot of research that goes into just finding things when you don't have them yourself. I could use this here if it had a spout on it, but it really doesn't. So maybe I will look at the other map. What did we got here? That's on the railroad too. Ooh, see now there we go. We're gonna utilize this building right here. That's all I need. I want an input. Although this is a sell point, do we have an out? We can. It doesn't have a silo attached to it. We'd have to attach something. Oh, I was hoping it had a silo. We need an offload point because we're going to be exchanging stuff. We just need an in and an out. Go to middle near river. Up here? That building there? Oh, left? See, yeah, this building actually right here has a nice little out, but I don't see. That's actually the building I'm using for the crop exchange. End of the big field. Ooh. That's a... Where's our silo? See, they're all sell points. They don't have offload points on them, do they? Well, there is an I was just looking for something that already had the pre-built. Is that the one you're talking? Take the little silo with the spout and stick it on the inside of the other silo so the spout sticks out. Yep, that's a possibility. So anyway, that's what you got to do when you're starting. Let's take this. It's a nice little building. Let's export it. File, export, selection. We find that folder and it's export selection. Whatever's selected will export. We're going to find that PV exchange, and I'm just going to rename this to, I'm going to make this the exchange, because I'm going to, and then do you want to get the parent directory structure? If it's in the Giants map, for sure, get it and keep the game relative paths. That way none of that junk from this map has to come in. So select those two. So we now have that model. Now there was a small silo with a spout that we might be able to reposition, or we can always add a spout on, but yeah, we could do, I don't know where that small silo with the spout was. Grab your pieces. Find what you want to work with somewhere. That's our dairy. That's just a sell point, but we can create something out of it. Use your imagination. That's terrible looking spout. That's the whole thing. This silo doesn't have a spout. I could create a spout pretty easily. I'm just looking to try to make it even easier. Rather than importing pipe pieces, which I might do. So you'll often see me go to my other mods because I know where we have those pieces, and all I'm doing is importing these objects from those other mods rather than from the map. Here's a spout, here's a silo. We can try to bring that onto the other one, but I don't know if I care for that one as much. So we'll create a spout like that comes out of that building. So once you have what you want to work with in your folder, you can make that your main mod. We have our building. We're going to go back to that folder, the PV exchange, and exchange is what we're going to make the mod out of. We're going to open that up in the editor. Very simple, open it up, and all we're going to have is that building. There it is. We're going to make a PV exchange. We have an unloading point. We will make a silo spout probably right off of this end over here. Or we can, yeah, we're going to decorate it. But first things first, we have a mod. We have our grain silo. And we want to make it. It's right at, and I always do this, I'll set these to 0, 0. Everything on this is set at 0, 0. So it's centered. Now, what I do all the time as well is I'm going to create a primitive and a plane. This is going to be our dummy ground plane. 50, and you scale X and Y and try to figure out your base for how big your mod's going to be. If it's too wide, make it 40. If it's too long, we'll go down a little bit further till we get where we want. Whoops, that. Get the rough base size. All right, I'm going to make a spout off of this building. And I don't think I can remove that little door, but we can definitely bring in another piece for it. So this is basically our i3D file for our new mod, right from scratch, right out of the Giants game. You will need other pieces. Now, fortunately, I have a folder that has pieces that I've saved, okay? Uh, I don't know if it'll have what I want in here, but we do have water props, and is there any pipe? I don't know where I have my pipe stored. It's been a while. But I keep these little things. Uh, they're little assets. Most of them are taken right out of Giant's maps, but I have silos. If I wanted to do the silo inside a silo, like somebody suggested, we could do that. So let's take a look and see what this small silo 2. I think these silos, though, are ones you drive underneath. I'm going to look and see what's in my little library. It could be in the map. These probably were in the map at one point. Set these to 0, 0, 0. It'll appear right in front of me. So that's a silo that I took out of one of the maps. Not exactly what I'm looking for, so I'm not going to use that one. Let's take a look at this other one. And we're still building our little i3D file for the map. Now, that could be used. I still don't really want it for this. I want more of a grain type silo, so I'm not going to be using that one either. I'm going to try... Let's try the medium and see what that is. If I don't find anything in here, I will look for my pipes. We'll just put a pipe extension on. You could remove it. See, it's all one piece. It's not that easy when you have one piece. I don't want the oh, what do we got there? So that isn't that's interesting. Silo that I got from somewhere. I like it. It might be too big for what I'm going to do, but do we have any offload spouts under here? No, there is one outside there. So yeah, the piece on the train one, you can't separate the little thing. Yeah, you anybody can edit. I don't do the 3D editing. I'm going to just look in my I have pipe in here somewhere. I got metal shelves, shop vacs, wheelbarrows, workbenches, all decor items in there. The half pipe, gas props, scripts, silos, smelter, sounds. Do I not have my pipe? Pipe, I think, is actually outside. Thank you, Wolfie. How you doing, Wolfie? 28 months in a row. Thank you so much for your continued Tier 2 support there. I appreciate it. You're awesome. You're an awesome dude. I don't care what anybody else says about you. Yeah, we got a piece of pipe. There's a pipe 1 right here. Let's see what we got for pipe. And there's a pipe 90-degree angle. We're going to make a spout. So we'll take a look at the pipe. I'm just looking for a straight piece. That'll work. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to file. We'll highlight it. File. Export selection. And I'm going to copy it right into the same folder as pipe. And then we're going to look for the pipe 90-degree piece. Make sure that's what I want. And Are we loading or not? Let me try it again. No, I guess, oh yeah, now it's coming up. Boy, that was slow. There's my pipe. We'll move it to 0. So I have a 90-degree piece that we can use as well. File, export selection, and just give it another name. Pipe 90, we'll call it pipe 90. And we'll save it. Get my parent, yes, and game relative paths, yes. Now, all those pieces carried over into that same folder. At this point, we're going to do a little bit of organizing. I'm going to create a transform group. All right. That's going to be the main group for the whole mod. So we'll call it exchange. We'll just give it a name. Now, I'm going to create underneath that another one, edit, create, transform group, and I'm going to cut that. I'm going to put it in here, edit, paste, and we're going to call this my visibility group. All right. Everything for the factory visibility is going to go in that group. So I'm going to grab this, cut it, and I'm going to put it into the visibility, and it should stay right where it is because we had everything at 0. So I'm going to move that to the top. This is going to be my factory. This is my viz group for the factory, and all parts that are going to be visible are going to go into this group. Now as I import my pipe, edit, cut, we're going to put it into the viz group right away. And then we're going to come over and take a look at our piece of pipe. It's long, but it's pipe. It has some funky stuff. Another thing you could do if you're having trouble, try to get yourself above the center, and you can do a create light, and you can shed some light on your subject, and it'll go wherever you're looking at, wherever you create it. That's why I moved to up above. And that's just a temporary light. It gives me a little bit better view of this. Now, certain things with like pipes can easily be scaled. The X is usually the length. It not always, but just take a look. If it doesn't look the way you want it, make it different. You got scale X, Y, and Z. It's a piece of pipe, so we want to keep the Y and Z the same, or we'll have an oval pipe. So I'm going to keep those as a good thickness. Then you have your rotations. Y is usually on this axis, so I'll rotate it 90 degrees, and we're going to bring my pipe, and we're going to make a little outspout right out the window here. Make it big enough so that, and we can also put something, and I'll show you that in a minute too. There are objects you can create within the thing itself. We're going to center this up. We're making a spout. Now I want that 90-degree piece to go on the end of my spout here. So we're going to import that. My pipe 90. We're going to cut it and put it into my viz group with the rest of the stuff. As you're doing this, you can drag the arrows up, down to bring your object over. Another thing you could do is pick a spot close by, like the end of the pipe. Sometimes this will work. Left control and the B key, and then just click your mouse, and it'll bring it over close to where it is. But obviously you can see we've got to rotate my spout and hook it up. So we'll bring it close by. Let's rotate it around. And another trick I use, because sometimes you don't know which direction all these little things are. Actually, there it is. That's what I'm looking for. You can start dragging it like this. See which rotation node is moving up here, and then set that one to the angle that you need, just like that. That's a little trick that I use every now and then. But for this, we're just going to bring this in. We're going to make our spout come on down to offload our grain, and that's where it's going to be. So another thing you can do, obviously, to me, it looks like kind of strange that this is just poking through a window. You have just basically two primitive objects. If you create a primitive, you have a cube and a plane. A plane is what we put underneath. It's just a single-sided plane. I'm using it for a piece of ground. It's great for ground labels and stuff. But for this, I'm going to create a primitive, and it's going to be a cube. I'm going to cut that cube. You can rename it if you want. I'm going to put it in my visibility group with everything else. And what I'm going to do basically is make a cover, if you will, by scaling this cube for this little window. Cubes, I use them all the time for different things. Scale it to the size you want. Holy crap. Oops, excuse me. Obfuse code, thank you so much for that tip. And 1018, thank you for the cheers. Holy. Woohoo! Wow. Thank you so much. I didn't expect that to go off. It's pretty cool. It hasn't been working, but it worked that time. Oh, thank you so much for that. Woo-wee! And the biddies there, 1018, 2000 cheers. That one didn't work. We're working on it. So I'm creating a little block here. I'm going to just cover this. I'm going to scale it. I'm going to keep scaling this till I get something that I feel is good enough to give me a different place to put my spout. Again, my spout is way off center, so we're going to move that up a little bit and maybe over here and just put the pieces in place for this little spout that I'm creating. And I did get these. So yeah, one of the things I like to do is I like to create an object library so that I have pieces that I can use in future, and that's why you see me take things from stuff. My mods themselves are object libraries for me now. Now we have an ugly white box. So let's talk a little bit about adding a material to one of your base objects or changing a material. We could literally click on the pipe. If you don't have it open, you want to go to View and Show. Oh, nope. I'm sorry. Window. Material Editing. Click it. It'll open up. Put it somewhere where you like it. Here's all your windows that we're working with. I already have the material editing. I use it so much that I keep it open. But this pipe texture, if we did not like it, we can click. It's just a basic texture mostly. I'm going to stick with that. But if I wanted to, I am in my PV Exchange. If I can find another texture that I like, I could put it into this little folder, my PV Exchange textures folder, and we'll do that now just for demonstration. Textures, again, I have in my things some block textures, which are tileable textures. They're blocks, they're seamless. You could search for seamless textures online and then convert them using paint.net into DDS files. But say we wanted to use this metal one here. It's got little metal, it's red. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm going to copy that. And sometimes they don't look very good, but we're going to put it right in the textures folder here. And we're going to test it and see how it looks. Back over to our model. Now if I go and click on my albedo map and click this button, I can select my metal and then load it in. Now, any piece that had that assigned now has that red pipe, and it has a nice seam on it. I think it doesn't look too bad. The collar. You see this collar here? There's often a drop-down box. We're going to change the collar also to the red. And there, we now have a red pipe. And we can do the same thing if we wanted to do the same color. I don't know how it looks, but we'll assign the red metal to that. And because that's a block texture, it also colored my ground, but the ground is just a temporary thing anyway, so it's okay. So we now have a downspout, a little red one for our offloading of products. On the side, it doesn't look half bad. We also have a dump point right here. So everything we've created visibly is in our little visibility group. Once you have your model ready, you're going to do a couple of additional things. You're going to have to start your XML for a mod. We'll save. We're going to come over here. We have not much in here. Every mod needs a mod description XML. And again, why go and create a brand new mod description when you have ones that already have the formatting for you? If you're creating a global company placeable like this is, then open up anybody's global company placeable to grab your mod description. Any placeable, unzip it. That's what I do. It makes it easy. So I have tons of them. Use one of mine. You're going to edit it anyway. So we'll take the Frito Factory mod description file right here. As a matter of fact, for global companies, you're going to want the mod description. You're going to want the L10N files. Just copy those right over into your folder here. Another requirement is this GCC checker Lua piece from any global company mod. We'll put that in there as well. If it's a factory, you could you're going to need a store image. I'm going to just use the basic one that's in here. So these are all just pieces that you can copy from anything and then edit them yourself. And then you're going to need the main factory XML for a global company as well. I'm going to just copy the Frito one in here. We'll make the changes appropriately as we need it. So once you have an XML for the actual mod, you can name it. We'll name it the fruit exchange. And remember, case is very important on these. Fruitexchange.xml, because that's what this is going to be. Let's open up the mod description. That one is not going to change, but there, give it your own little author name. Set your version number. It should be description version 44. Give it your mod name. We'll call it the Fruit Exchange, or I like to call it Crop Exchange here whoops, spell it right. In the title, I still can't spell it right. EXCHANGE, there we go. Now, give it a description. These are language tags. I am guilty of not wanting to translate everything, so I only use the English ones. Anybody ever wants to do translations for me? You can do them, and I would gladly try to install them into my mods. But EN and the N tag, and then there's this C data, and then we put in our description. This is what's going to appear in the mod list. So I'm going to put exchanges base game fruits to PV fruit, and that's what this mod is going to be doing. So you can use my mods on other maps. You'll be able to come here, drop off wheat, and get millet, for instance. We keep the icon store DDS. We're going to edit that later. I really don't care about that right now. Multiplayer support, true. This is where we have our store items. For now, we're just going to keep one, and that is the XML file name for our factory, which is now fruitexchange.xml. That tells us that's where it's going to read the information for this. So this has to match that spelling exactly. Get in the habit of just capitalizing the second word, like, and then I know that the case matches fruit exchange XML. That's my store item. Extra source files loads the global company checker, and what that does is it will check to see if the minimum version of global company is installed, or it won't install this mod. Seeing as global company is up to 1.3 and we're designing this to test in 1.3, we'll change that minimum version to 1.3. Then you have the function name in your L10N. Again, I usually just, that's the function of the whole thing, so I'm going to copy that and put that in what it does down here. Then the brand pulls the logo from the Global Company Placeable DDS file. That's the brand. You could do your own brand here, and then link to your own image file if you so choose. Once you have your mod description set up, it knows where to go. That's the main thing, to the fruitexchange.xml file. And that is where everything happens for this mod. So store data. What is it going to be in the name of it in the store? It's your fruit exchange. Image. It's going to pull the store.dds image that we have here. Now, at any point, you can create your own little image out of this by loading this one up. We'll select edit, select all, delete. I'm just going to do, for example, we'll put a black background and I'll put white, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Black background, select text, and I'm going to put white text so you know that this is, and we'll make it bigger, the fruit exchange. You can copy the picture out, which we will do later at some point. I'm not going to go all the way with this mod, but it's giving you a good starting point, and maybe we can continue this piece, the fruit exchange, all the way through till the end for as you catch up. All right, so let me see. I'll catch up. This will be available later, right? I can only watch. Yeah, check this out. It'll be up on the Twitch stream. It'll for quite a while, and I will be here for a long time today. And I'll try to get this up onto YouTube as well. Good afternoon there, Jababo. I gotta get better at starting to upload to my YouTubes, and these tutorials are pretty good. So if there's no mod description XML reference docs, so how do you know what you can and cannot use? What are you trying to... I'm not sure I understand your question. You definitely need a mod description. Just grab one, and this is how you start. This is for placeables only, what we're doing. You need a mod description. Copy one from somewhere. Make the edits. Then you need a XML file for the piece you're loading in. So creating an icon, that is actually for what version of Giants engine it uses. So 44 is current. 43 will still work because I think that was the early version. Uh, spell check needs a C. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, this is a demo. Spell check. Exchange. Yes. So 44, that's what version of Giants. 43, I think, was the early first release of. If you go back to like 42, it won't work. But 44 will work. They might even have 45 now. I don't know what their current version is supposed to be, but 44 still works for me. So that is what your version number. It's which version of Giants engine it is. And they change it and they usually update it, but I think it's currently 44. So when exporting an image from Paint, save as this, we're going to overwrite my store DDS, replace it. A image for an icon just needs to be BC1, a DXT1 file, and you do not need bitmaps on it. That's basic settings for uh, any display that has a solid background. Now, if we wanted to go with a blank background, you want to save it as a DXT5. But and I know that I'm gonna be redoing this, but I just did that for a temporary thing. Temporary. We're gonna put the actual picture on there when I get it. So then you set the price of your new little factory or whatever you're creating. $45,000 sounds like a good one. We have a can be sold true, show in store true. So if people buy it, you want them to be able to sell it, show in store. It has to be showing in the store. If you want them to be able to place it. This is a placeable. If it's built into the map and you want it to stay in the map, you can change can be sold to false and show in store. But building stuff into the map is a whole nother show. So for now, you want those to be true. On a placeable, I don't know if lifetime even comes into play, but it's there. If it was a vehicle, it would die after so many hours. And we're going to leave it at 1,000. You could have it import at a different rotation. We'll just keep it at 0. You can put your own. I have it as a brand of DadgeNet. My logo is already installed in the map. You could use any of the in-game like Lizard if you're on, and it will call the logo. But if you're going to use your custom brand name, you're going to need to have that registered somewhere, and mine's already registered in the map. That's why it finds it. If people use this without my map, it would throw a logo error. Your species, it's a placeable object. Simple as that. The category, I categorize this as food. I register different categories. You can use the base category placeables or miscellaneous, MISC, and it'll end up in the miscellaneous. Let's see if we can find a list of categories that Giants uses. I think I have them of where it can be categorized in my iDrive. Now this isn't readily available for everybody. Let's see. This PC, there's from my desktop. I cracked it open. So this is actually inside their files. Store categories.xml. There we go. A list of categories are right here. Categories that you can use that are registered in the map. Take a screenshot. Objects, Placeables. We have animal pens, silos, sheds, placeable miscellaneous, decoration, farmhouses, and containers. It can assign it to any of those. So we could change it to miscellaneous. I register my own category, but it is a placeable, so you want to categorize it appropriately. And placeable miscellaneous is not a bad place to put it. So that's probably what I would use if I didn't have my own category set. So thank you there, 1018. I appreciate it. It will not take, I download the file and delete the old one, but every time it says I only have 1.24. If you're downloading Global Company Nanic, it's probably a RAR file, .rar. Usually has to be extracted and re-zipped into a zip file and then put into your folder. When you download Global Company, that's unfortunately a lot of times the way they do it. So once you have your store categories set in your XML file, you can put the fill types that go in this. Now, I'm going to leave it empty for now. It's going to take all fruits. So it's going to be very confusing. Don't worry about the buffer unless you're creating for a console, and I don't. That's why I don't know exactly how to set these. The vertex buffer memory usage and index buffer memory usage, I don't touch them. Texture memory usage, those are values that are needed for consoles, and I don't use any of these right here, but I just leave them there and I never change them. After that, the rest of this fun stuff, if it's a global company placeable, you need to have a placeable type tag. It's already here. And it's going to say global company production factory placeable all the time for global company stuff. That definitely has to be left there. Now is where we get to point to our file name. So we look in our file where we have our, if I can find it again, all our files for our, that's our Frito factory. We'll open it up. PV Exchange, here it is. We are making our exchange.i3d. That is the file, the main one that we have back here. Exchange i3d. It's going to load in this whole thing. So that is exactly what we want for our file name. Exactly caps wise and everything. So it's just exchange.i3d tells it to load that file. So we're halfway through the fruit exchange part XML. Not halfway, but we're getting there. At this point, you have placement and clear areas and leveling. And your season's mask. These 4 areas each do a different thing, but very often can use the same numbers. So we're going to start with the placement and we'll get the size and we're going to work on all these kind of together. Next component to add to your exchange, inside your exchange folder, we're going to create a new transform group. We got to cut it and we got to paste it up into our exchange. And then we're going to name that clear areas. CLEARAREAS. All right. And we have a little node there. Underneath that folder, we're going to create a couple more. Transform, edit, cut. In my clear areas, we're going to paste. And we're going to make one that's called start, S-T-A-R-T. I'm going to control D for duplicate. And then I'm going to name the next one width, W-I-D-T-H. And one more duplicate, and we're going to make it height, H-E-I-G-H-T. So we have a clear areas group. Click on the main part of the clear areas group. This is the easiest way. to set it up. A quick note on things here. We're setting up this mod. You just pick, this could change the orientation of where it's going to load in. You could start it on any side, but I'm going to start it on this side. And what I'm going to do with the clear areas group, what highlighted is I'm going to come right down to this corner, and I'm going to left control B, click, and move the whole group so it's right here. Now that that is placed, if we open it up, our start point is already there. Our width, just drag, highlight your width point, drag it right across that plane that you created. That's why I sized this to the factory as well, the factory area that we want to clear. Now, you'll notice my pipe is overhanging. We're not going to be editing that. You don't want a big slope there. That's why we put this whole viz group a little bit off center. I'm going to drag it right down this way, make sure that that's on my thing. We can move that around. We want to keep the plane in its right place. If you want, you can extend the plane out further. The bigger a plane you use, the more area you're going to need to make this placeable. So I'm going to just slide it. I've got a nice area. We've got the width point set. We've got the start point set. And the next one is the height. So we're just going to basically grab the height one and drag it all the way up to that point right there on that corner. Now we have our clear areas settings. So if we come back over, we scaled my plane down here to a size. We left it at 0. That scale is 40x and 60 on the Z. So when we come back over to our XML, you have a test size. We're going to test the area of 40x and 60z to see if anything is in there. And we're also going to make the size of our property 40x and 60z. We're not going to put any random rotation. We're going to use manual rotation so we get to rotate it ourselves and it doesn't come in randomly. Something like a tree, you could use random rotation and it'll rotate it every time somebody places one. But for factories and stuff, you want to use random Y rotation to false and your manual to true. The clear areas, we have a start, width, and height index. We just created those out here. So we're going to open it up, highlight the start in your user attributes panel. You want to grab the nodes right here. 0 on Global Company does not need to be used. So we're going to just take what's after the little caret symbol, the 1, 0. That is our start. It's 1, 0. And if you have it set up exactly like I do, you will notice the node for the width will be 1, 1 and the height will be 1, 2. So we're going to use those nodes as well. 1, 1 and 1, 2. That tells us what area needs to be cleared to it has to be capitalized. Brand has to be capitalized. Yes, all caps for your brand name. Yes, indeed. Good point there. So this is telling us to clear the area in between those points, and that is done. I use the same thing. Leveling requires leveling equals true. There's a smooth distance and slope. I keep them set to 10 and 30. That's how much to slope and the angles and everything. You can experiment with it, but that's how to taper off the edges of your mod after that, outside of that plane, and it can figure out. So, but I'm gonna leave those. You'd have to experiment with how far out you want it to smooth, what the maximum slope is or maximum edge angle. These seem to work well for most placeables, so I keep them right there. We are leveling the same area as the clear area, so we can use those same exact nodes. 1, 0, 1, 1, and 1, 2. The ground type is what ground type you want to appear underneath there. You can put concrete, you could put sand, you could put gravel. You can use any of the ground-based types, grass if you wanted to, and that's just the texture that's going to go underneath it. If you use it, everybody's choking now. Zeus is in the house. Zeus, welcome to the stream, Zeus47. So, as you look at the ground type, if it doesn't find it on the map that it's loading it, it's going to use dirt as default. You can use asphalt. You can do lots of different things. Asphalt is one of them. But concrete is a basic one. I like it for something like this, so we're going to leave the concrete underneath there for the ground type. Hi, Zeus. See, I never know what I'm going to be doing. I'm kind of giving a tutorial from the start. At some point, we're going to go over to the next mod that I'm actually supposed to be working on, the Frito Factory, and we'll continue on that. The Seasons Mask area tells it where you don't want it to snow. Okay? Now, for all of my mods, again, I use the same coordinates, so snow does not fall on that. You can always, at any point, if you want to set something different, like a Seasons Mask area different, and maybe you do want it to snow on the ground, but you don't want it to snow underneath this little thing, then you just need to create a new group. You can actually copy the clear areas, and you could rename it something like Seasons Mask, and then reset. Well, you don't want a space in there. It's bad practice to have a space in your names. Seasons Mask. Then you want to highlight the area to mask out for seasons. So we don't want it inside our building. So we would do the same thing. We drag our start point here. You could set up your own custom. We'll put the start there. And now our width, maybe we want to just max right where the building base is. So we'll kind of eye it up right about there. And then we'll do the height of the actual building. So the land around the building will snow a little bit more, but it won't snow inside that box. So we actually have a Seasons Mask area. Normally I just use the clear areas. It's easier. But seeing as we now set up a Seasons Mask area, 2 is the group, 0, 1, 2, 1, and 2, 2. So we'll change that over here. For our Seasons Mask, we're going to do 2, 0, 2, 1, and 2, 2. That's basically that. Hotspot code. It's not often included in your mods themselves. It took me a long time to figure this out. I wish I could show you my diagram. I have it on paper. I don't know a lot about hotspots. They're grids. This is how we set it up. We got a crop or fruit exchange, we're calling it. Fruit exchange. All right. Full name, we'll name it the same thing. Fruit exchange. And the image file that we're going to use. Map hotspots to DDS file. I did not copy in here, but I do know it's in my Frito factory. I'm going to grab it. It's an image file. We'll take a look at it in a minute. You can grab this out of any of my factories. There it is. We'll put that right into our fruit exchange. Well, now I've been calling it something else, but it's my PV exchange, FS19 PV exchange right there. Paste that logo right there, my map hotspot 2.dds. These image UVs point to a tiny little square in that image. So we're loading it from this image, and that square that I have it set for is right here. It's broken up into equal squares. That's the factory image. A little bit tricky here because I have ones, and actually if you go into the map itself, you need to know what the UV image points are for each of those squares. I'm not going to get completely into that, but if we go into the Pleasant Valley map and pull up that hotspot list right here, we have the one for the mines up in this corner, fuel. So it can be a whole big picture like this, and you can load in different hotspots, but it's not needed on a placeable. You just need one of these pieces, and then you can use that. So I've got some custom created icons here, but we're using just this corner, and that's what those UVs point to. Each of these has different coordinates. I have them written down in my notepad. But we're going to keep it that, the image UVs, just to that corner of that image. And if you want to replace it and give your own custom hotspot, then just open up that image that we have already open and find yourself a new image. Now this is a crop exchange, so I would Google something, actually, or make something. Now, I'm going to make something real quick because I have this program. I know what I want to use already, I think, for that. And I can do something relatively quick. I'm just going to select logo. It doesn't matter. I'm going to just file new. New template. Yeah. I've got these arrows. And I think that that would make a nice type exchange, you know, in and out type thing. So I'm just going to make a format the canvas to a nice square 256 by 256 for now. I'm creating myself a image scale, a hotspot icon with, and I love the logo creator because it has these cool little assets that I can design things with quickly and easily that look halfway decent. So just kind of centering it up there. And then I can easily file export it as a transparent PNG to my desktop, and we'll just name it. So if you know a little bit about making your own little graphics, you can change your own little hotspot. I use that program.
Let the games begin.
For something quick like that. Then I open it up because that program doesn't do DDS files. But I'll just crop down my arrows here. Image crop to selection. And I'm going to edit, select all, edit, copy. I'm going to come over to this here image and I'm going to actually paste it into a new layer. Kind of gives me a close representation of where this has to be. We're going to scale that into the same area. And I might have to move it later, but I know it goes about there, so I can turn off the back one, file, save this back out to my hotspot DDS file. And because the rest of it has to be clear behind it, you want to make sure that's a DXT file, DXT5 format. Click OK. Now I have that as my hotspot for the image that we're bringing in. The link node. Okay. And then we have hideable true, category trigger. So the hideable, if they toggle on and off icons in the map settings, it'll hide it. What the link node is a position where you are actually going to be teleporting into and where the icon shows up on the map. Very often you can come in. If you don't have a link node, it's going to actually port right to the center point, which is always very bad because they teleport right into the center of this building. You can pick an object if we had a label out here, but we really don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new transform group. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to put it into my exchange. And I'm going to name that link node. And I'm going to put that point where I want them when they visit the factory. Left control B, click. And now my link node is number 3. So we just set that link node to 3, and that's where we will teleport in on that hotspot. That's the basic setup of starting. Everything else here is Global Company. That symbol I just put there closes. Anything in green does not load in, okay? So I just put this less than, exclamation point, dash, dash. And you notice it turned everything green. I'm not going to load in any of the Global Company stuff right now. So I want to go all the way to the end, make sure everything is green. When I don't have green, these are my animated objects. I can keep doing these little, they can be removed later. But I'm going to take out animated objects completely. That's a whole nother show. We're going to remove the whole animated object section. And we need the end tag though for this mod, which is that production factories. So dash dash and the greater than symbol, you have the end tag, and actually no, we don't need that yet. We've got placeable. Where's the placeable tag? It's probably off the bottom. Yeah, alright. That tag we don't need yet either because we're going to leave it. We just want to keep the placeable. You do need an end tag for every start tag. So it's now a placeable object, but it's not going to run any of that. But I just wanted to show you that we will have our clear areas. Actually, it might even throw an error because right now it's a global factory, global company production placeable. It might throw an error. If I change, that's why I put this over here in parentheses, so I can easily copy it back. But for now, so I know it doesn't throw the global company, I'm just going to make it placeable type placeable. Now it won't load that, and then we'll make it back into a global company. But this is just so we can test it. We save it. It's in my mod folder. Let's load up. And, hey, Wheels, how you doing? So, this is just to get you started. We'll continue this one at some point, but we're going to give it a test. And start up a new map. You always want to test on a new map. A new game save, that is. Look for it in your... You can see the black icon. I made it black so it'd be easy to see. Make sure it's in your mod folder. I'm going to turn off seasons because it's always a pain in the butt to load seasons up. It takes too long for testing. And then start up our game. Now, I recommend highly, very highly, you get the easy dev controls from Giant's website. It's one of the mods. It has everything you need to do testing if you don't have it already. Easy dev controls. They're tools for developers, and if you're going to work with mods, it's made life so simple because we can alter things on the fly to test several things. You can fill a tipper to test a trigger, for instance. So easy dev controls is pretty cool little tool, and F11 key will enter that whole thing. So I'm on a blank map with only $100,000. I don't own any property. Yeah, the global company can activate extended placeable, but to give this test, I just got in the habit of hitting F11, give myself a bunch of money, and then I buy the piece of property that's right here, and then I go to my purchase, and we had this in, I forget what category. Did I leave it in food? Yes, I did. I left it in my food category. So we double click. There are too many. See, this happens. Too many objects of this type. Please sell some first. I did something wrong. Let's see what I did. Uh, Open your error log and see what the heck you did wrong. Error, invalid placeable type. Okay. It's an invalid placeable type, so I can't use that placeable type. What were the placeable types I could use? Miscellaneous. So yeah, we'll crash that out of there. Yeah, I should have just pulled back up my placeable types from that folder. Or you could leave it, the global company. It probably wouldn't have crashed it. I'm going to put this back in and see if what it does. That's what it's going to be anyway in the long run. Global company production, but I may need to open up the other group or it might throw errors as well. It's kind of like a half done. So it's getting there. But you always want to test it and see how it looks. So, oh, let me get rid of that game. Keep Task Manager handy because if your game locks up like mine did, you can always end task. Because you will throw errors when modding that might lock up your game. Alt F4 usually works too. We'll try that again. Save game 6 looks good. Select the map you want to use. In the mods, I know it's there already. Seasons, where are you? Turning you off. Let's see if it goes this time. I know that there was a certain point where you're making it a GC production factory and not having the rest of the XML in there through errors. But I think it still let me place it, which is all I really want to do right now. So let's find out. Get my cache. Get my piece of property. Go into my menu. And we have our property and our placeable little building. So that, if you don't have a building with functions, just use the placeable miscellaneous type and you can make placeable objects through this point. You don't have to make it a global company, and everything else pretty much stays the same. But there's our new building for our crop exchange, or our fruit exchange that will be coming in. We can take a look at the spout I made. We don't have, the rest of it is making it work, but the object itself, that's where you guys have to start off. And this is usually part of the process you don't often get to see, because I'm always in the XML working on the next part, which we are doing right now for Frito. Setting up the triggers, moving things around. So, but I hope that's gives you all a good place to start. We took the object right out of Giants, we made it into edited it a little bit, added some pieces. Now, there is one important thing at this point that I just want to go over before you release all your mods. We're going to close this out. We brought in pieces from other files other than just the Giants map into this whole thing. And it's very important that you make sure you have all those pieces uh, ready and that everything is linked correctly, or somebody's going to get your mod and say, oh, there's textures missing, because it will work on your computer, but not on theirs. So a couple of quick cleanup things at this point that you can do. We're going to load up into our... First, we'll close down all this junk that I got open because we don't need it. Oh, we didn't really need to close that one. Let me see what we got here. We are going to close these down. We don't need to save that one. We're going to close the exchange. We've already saved that. What else do I got open over here? Oh, we've got the Giants map. We don't ever want to save in the Giants map or you'll be reinstalling your game. My pipe pieces that I imported. I always leave these all open. And the concrete factory, which we've been grabbing pieces. I'll leave that because I'm still using that. So at this point, back into your folder for whatever your mod you're making, we've imported these pieces. The pipe is already in there. Unless you're going to be using them again, you can now get rid of the things that you don't need. And that's an old exchange. The i3D and the shapes file only. Any graphics that came with them, you want to keep. But you can remove those because they are now a part of this exchange itself. Next, you want to right click, edit with Notepad++, your main thing. Take a look. Anything that's $data in your files is pointing right into the Giants game. So we're loading all these files for that building. Don't need to be in our map. All those, the shaders and everything. This last one, textures metal white weld, is the only graphic that we need. These are no longer being used. So I can remove those as well. So just take a quick look at it in your i3D editor. If you have, in your Notepad++, if you have a ... dash in front and it's pointing out usually it's pointing outside and you didn't get all the textures in, and you're going to want to find those textures and make sure they're in an appropriate file path, like textures, metal white. But everything else, that's the only additional texture that's in this right now. And everything else, you're good to go. So just double check, make sure you have all your textures. The rest of it you really don't need to know yet. It's just a simple placeable mod right now. But I hope that gets you a good start on create. Oh, you know what I wanted to do? Let's load that up one more time. Little will chew me out for the drop-off spot. That's okay. Little won't need it unless he's playing on a different map. This one is going to be to bring PV products into other maps. So basically we're going to, like I said, make an exchange point for, and I'll continue this at some point, but that wasn't what the topic was going to be today. We're going to create an exchange point to get lavender and tobacco and rye and millet and sorghum and those by exchanging the base crops. So I got to work all the math out in that. That's why I have left this for another day, really. At this point, we got to figure out how I want the conversion rates to work. But I did want to see my hotspot on that, and I didn't. Oh, let me get the piece of property again. Whoops. Yeah, we got money. I want a hotspot test. I never looked at it. We'll put it right over here. Boop. And there you go. We have a hotspot with my two little circle arrows for the exchange. If it looks a little off center, you could center it up a little bit. I could probably drop it down a little bit further and a little bit, but that's how you create your little hotspots for your thing, and it puts it in the little black circle automatically. And we can test the teleport too by highlighting and then hit space, and it puts it at that visit point that we set up right here rather than in the middle of the building. So everything's working. I hope that gets everybody a good start. You could do that just for placeable objects that you want to bring in. If you want to make decorative objects, this tutorial has everything you need to know to do that. You just have to play it back a little slower and change the category to one of the appropriate categories to put your mod in.